A very good morning and welcome to Morning Express on this 22nd day of June 2020. We are coming to you live from our studios right here on Mombasa Road. And as usual, we have a great show lined up for you where we're going to be looking at what's happening politically after weighing in on the dailies. My name is Michael Gitonga.
We shall be looking at the inside politics of the Jubilee Party, the very latest, the upcoming meeting that some politicians have promised to snap. Far from that, we shall also be taking a look at Moses Wetangula's political woes. He was tear-gassed recently and obviously ousted from his own party. So we're going to take a look at that and many other developing stories that have unfolded over the weekend. We encourage you to be a part of the conversation, and to do that, you need to answer the question that we are asking you today on Twitter. And
the question that we're asking is it too early for the ongoing political realignments? Do you think it is too early for the ongoing political alignments? We've seen them happen. We've seen Jubilee start with their purge, and then we have Orange Democratic Movement also crack the whip on some of what they call their errant members. So do you feel that it's too early for the ongoing political realignments? Of course, we've had some politicians say that we are slowly drifting to a single party state, which of course would be dangerous where we are coming from. But do you feel that these realignments would be taking us that way? And that's what we're going to be looking at as we carry on with the show. But for now, we'd like to look at what's making headlines on the dailies. And joining me to have that conversation, I'm joined by Kenon Weda. Good morning and great to have you, Kenon Weda. Karibu sana to the show.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
And yeah, we go straight into what's making headlines in the dailies. And we start off with the Standard, where the headline is Uhuru and Raila's Parliament fixes. And this again is in line and projecting on a PG meeting that is expected to take place today, chaired by the party leader of Jubilee, and that's none other than the president himself, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. But in the back office of some of what's happening is, of course, the firing that took place of certain members of parliament from certain committees, and it is expected that today would be the day where they would be announcing some of the leaders. But coming to you, Weda, Uhuru and Raila's Parliament fixes. Your thoughts on just that headline? We have fixers who are there working to ensure that the party's, vision is kept, or could it just be politics?
I think it is these people are fixing for a new political realignment. It's not about the agenda. I think the four main agenda items disappeared in the background after the handshake. So it is about the future, and the future here is a future which should be crafted excluding the deputy president, so that these fixers are selected on the basis of how do you relate to the deputy president and vis-a-vis the vision that is required, which is maybe a life where there's Honorable Raila and Honorable Uhuru and other people except the deputy president. So any scintilla of evidence that you have been allied to the deputy president, or you love him, or you have prayed for him, they will use that as sufficient ground to have you axed.
All right, there's something interesting you say there, that it depends on how you relate to the party leader. One would imagine that in this day and age, it should be more relating to what the people on the ground have to say and what their needs are, as opposed to just, being realigned or, siding with the party leader for that matter.
I think we hope to head there, where you are talking about one day we trust, we thank God we'll head there. But for now, our parties are still individuals. We are still talking about Jubilee. When you say Jubilee and you say President Uhuru and you say William Samoei Ruto, you are saying one thing. When you say ODM and you say Honorable Raila, you are saying one thing. So the parties, the major parties, are individuals. And if today, for instance, Honorable Raila was to say, this morning I have abandoned Jubilee, I'm in the handshake party of Kenya, you will see the support rising for the handshake party, and the Jubilee the ODM will just be dead in a few hours. So it is about individuals. I trust one day we will build our institutions in such a way that the parties and the ideologies and the dreams matter. For now, Wanjiku doesn't matter because
Doesn't matter.
Wanjiku follows the leader.
Okay. Allow me to bring in now Joseph Kioko, who is a governance consultant, who's joining us via video link. Thank you for joining us bright and early. Joseph, straight into the headlines, and the headline for the Standard is Uhuru and Raila's parliament fixes. This, of course, is as we anticipate and look to what's going to be happening today in the PG meeting. Your thoughts on this particular headline and whether indeed these are fixes or it's just political parties doing what they do best, which is, you know, catering for their interests.
Thanks, Michael, for hosting us. I think it's what political parties do best, because if you look at the parliamentary agenda of Jubilee since 2013 to date, you cannot, in any fairness, cast aspersion on the leadership that existed there. Jubilee has never lost a vote. Jubilee has never lost on account of leadership. Actually, there's no vote or any agenda of government of Jubilee that has ever been brought and the House leadership has been found wanting for lack of prosecution or for lack of energy, really. So whatever is happening is not a question of there's an agenda or a progressive agenda that has not been managed well by the leadership that existed. And I don't hold brief for them. But my argument is this is what political parties do best, especially at this time. If it was in the football parlor, then this would have been the best time for transfer. It's a transfer window that is opening up. Your coalition partner of the last election, 2.5 years into that relationship, you are looking at a value addition and where you want to go as you move towards 2022. Therefore, new partners must emerge, new coalition must emerge, new agendas must emerge. Of course, they'll be sugar-coated to appear that they are Wanjiku-centered. But in truthfulness, these are high-stake power games that are happening. Wanjiku has no space at this particular time. She has to wait a little bit. Once it is served and ready, she'll be presented something, either take it or leave it.
All right. And maybe in your honest and fair opinion, is there a time, Kioko, you feel that Wanjiku is ever on the discussion table? Because sometimes we look at it and expect that political parties are going to indeed take care of the people that put them in power, and that doesn't seem to happen. So maybe we frustrate ourselves by expecting that. Do you think there's ever a time that Wanjiku is, you know, subject of discussion?
I think as a false marriage, there's always that illusion that this is Wanjiku-centered, because somehow Wanjiku also has a lot of trust in elected leadership. Wanjiku believes that that which is said by the leaders, and especially the leadership, political party leadership, what Raila says, what Uhuru Kenyatta says, there are people who, or William Ruto says, there are people who go with it till the end without questioning whether it is the truthfulness or whether it is good for, there's value for it or anything. So there's that element of trust at that leadership of the top. But previously, in certain situations, you remember the clamor for constitutionalism in the 1992 up to the 2010 new constitution that was enacted. The drive majority of time was a civil society center. It was outside parliament because the then civil society had created a narrative that the leadership that existed within parliament at that particular time was not really people-centered. So we needed outside civil society actors to take lead in driving reforms agenda. In this particular case, somehow the reform agenda is being driven by two people. Actually, one is the president himself, if that is a reform agenda for that matter, and the other one is the Honorable Raila Odinga, who says the constitution must be changed. We haven't seen civil society. We haven't heard the voices of people who are strongly coming out and saying, no, this should not be parliamentary-led as proposed, but people-led. I think that dichotomy and that, and I think yesterday there was an article that was written by Yashpal Guy that by and large defined certain inherent challenges and constraints that we were going to go through with the approach that is currently being taken. So Wanjiku is going to suffer a little bit for now.
Okay, Wanjiku is, of course, as usual, on the back burner. Whether your thoughts on some political, voices that have come out to say that we are slowly drifting towards a single-party system, even though they might, have different names and call them coalitions. Do you feel that these alignments that we are seeing coming up may be leading us towards a single-party kind of arrangement?
No, I really don't think we are leading to a single party scenario. We are having what is called realignment. The Honorable Raila has been working in the opposition as a colossus, and he's been the epitome of opposition. So when he goes quiet or he joins in the handshake, people think there is a large vacuum. But I want you to look back when Honorable the late Jaramogi Oginga Odinga passed on. It was the same scenario. People thought, now we are finished. The doyen of opposition has rested. There will be no opposition. And new people emerged. People like Honorable Raila emerged. People like Professor Nyong'o, Kiraitu Murungi, Martha Karua. I think you can see that team is already settling, and they are angling around the deputy president, if you ask me. I can see that if elections were held today, Honorable Raila, Honorable the President, and a few others, especially the older folk, will line on one side and the other will line on the other. And if the Ruto team does not win, they will form a credible opposition. There are also people who are enemies unto each other. If Honorable Raila goes this way, the fellow will definitely go the other side. So this is a time for a re-emergence of a new team with a new outlook. And there is no cause to worry that we will never have opposition. It will always be there. Even if you looked at Jubilee, you can see Jubilee is in government, but the opposition is growing within it on its own.
On its own. Yes. All right, Kioko, your thoughts on whether we are moving towards a single party kind of system. And some allied to the deputy president have even gone to the extent, and this is on page 5 of the Standard, to say that we are borrowing from China's communist sort of system. Your thoughts on this?
I think it would be a great misnomer for any or all of our political leadership to start gravitating towards a one monolithic party. And this argument that it is very cold being in the opposition is very, very selfish. Because when people exercise votes and your votes don't get to take you over and win, there are special roles in society that is anticipated and expected of you being in the opposition. We have an argument that being in opposition is not the very best of things, but I believe majority of the leadership that we see today was nurtured from the opposition benches. Raila was at his best, Orengo was at his best, Martha Karua was at her best at the time when they were challenging the KANU government, offering the best alternative as at that particular time. And that is why we keep going back to them to offer leadership as it is today. Now, those guys who are in opposition and they start moving towards a union or a merger, a coalition, or whatever acronym they give it, to work with the ruling party and leave the opposition role that people expected them to play, to put the government of the day in check, are really giving a disservice to their core supporters, because they sold a message that this other side was never the very best of side that should lead us. Now, joining them, you leave the other people feeling betrayed. I think that must be made clear. However, politics is the art of the possible. The party leaders today are not only playing politics of 2017, but they are telling their followers that for us to get to where we want to go in 2022, we must go to bed with some otherwise unpalatable characters that we never saw ourselves engaging in. I think that is what Kalonzo Musyoka did the other day. I think that is what Raila Odinga is trying to do today. I think when you look at the axis of Ruto reaching out to people we always thought they could not sit on the same bench together, happening. So these coalitions will happening. But again, as a country, we must guard our institutions of political parties that we do not slide into a one-party rule in whichever manifestation that it shows itself.
Ruto's loss, Raila's gain. You're weighing in on this, whether that it looks like it's literally war between, like you mentioned, there is war infighting in Jubilee, and of course it seems that the deputy presidents and those allied to him are the ones being fought. But this is a benefit possibly for Raila, and this is again as we look forward to the PG meeting that's going to be taking place today, and we expect that some of those fired in some of the committees are definitely going to be replaced, and maybe ODM might be reaping some benefit from here.
Yes, I think in all this saga, Honorable Raila's party is the insurance for the president. Because if you are to jostle Ruto's side, and then Honorable Raila's side also walks out, the president's side remains very vulnerable and weak. So to have proper insurance, if you are going to attack that side, which is equally sizable, then you need Honorable Raila and you need his men and women on the president's side. So to pay for this insurance, they'll just for these seats. And you know, MPs want these seats because you make a little coins here and there, and with the COVID, the meetings have been reduced. So there's a financial crunch. So when they get committees and they get all sorts of privileges, they're able to make money here. So look at it not in terms of the president using Honorable's party as insurance, but also as Honorable Raila's team gaining some coins along the process and hoping that playing the good boy, they will eventually reap the actual crown from President Uhuru when President Uhuru takes a bow, assuming he will take a bow. But if you look at the gerrymandering and the sub-rattling that is going on, they may also be in for a rude surprise towards the end.
All right, and Kioko, your thoughts on Raila or even Kalonzo benefiting from what is happening in Jubilee?
Spoils of war. Spoils of war. Spoils of war. I mean, whatever is going through Jubilee is truly self-inflicted, because one cannot run away from the fact that Jubilee had, by and large, a sizable majority in the House that was functional. They were voting machines for President Uhuru's agenda. The need to get out and bring Raila Odinga, the need to reach out and bring the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, the need to go out and bring the Honorable Gideon Moi. One must ask him or herself, truly what is the intention? Because it seems they are going beyond the normal majority needed to pass ordinary legislative agenda in Parliament. And like Weda has said, that whatever machinations they are doing, they might be in for a rude surprise at the tail end of it, because this is not the first time that you bring in insiders into a political machinery. We saw in 2000 what Moi was doing, co-opting NDP, bringing in the big hawks, and everybody who came in with the super egos expected certain favors from the late President Moi. And at the tail end of it, he was not able to juggle the interest of all those people. And when they walked out, the party imploded. Now, that is history that must be learned. There is something for Raila, for Honorable Raila to behave the way he's behaving. There is a certain goal that he anticipates to achieve at the tail end of it. Then for Honorable Kalonzo also to do, and Honorable Gideon to do what is being anticipated or they are doing right now. Because in today's PG at KICC, Wiper MPs will be attending because the Jubilee coalition group.
Right.
KANU MPs will be there, yeah, because they've signed that agreement with Jubilee. So now for all of them to do that, I think there are certain expectations they will have towards the person of President Uhuru at the tail end. How President Uhuru manages those egos and those interests will be something very spectacular to watch. But we saw President Moi.
All right, and we'll continue with this discussion on the next segment with Trix Ngado. There's also the strategy that maybe the Deputy President seems to be employing, and that is with now what is being called Jubilee Asili. And I'd like to hear what your take is on that, but we'll do that in the next segment. Let's look at other stories that are making headlines. And on page 2 and 3, it's mainly to do with COVID-19 and the statistics that have come through. Doctors blame spike in virus death on late hospital visits. Maybe whether to get your thoughts on this and what you feel is the challenge that we have as Kenya. The numbers are going up despite the fact that we've still not got borders opened. You know, some of the counties that have been blocked off are still blocked off. We still have restriction of movement. We still have the curfew, but the numbers are not reducing. Where are we going wrong, do you think?
I think we've done so well as a country, and I thank the president for the direction he's given the country Why do I say so? You have to look at the United States of America, then you look at Tanzania, then you look at Brazil, then you say, even the mere fact that your president took a direction is good enough. The numbers that we are having spiking, our own scientists said that we will reach our peak in August. And these figures, they never lie. They work almost the same. But our weakest link, I think, is in the matatu transport and the fact that some people just disregard these things. I've seen people who do things which you wonder whether they are just trying to commit suicide. People insist on greeting each other for no reason, and you are strangers. You're not even whatever. So some people refuse to wear the masks, not for any special reason or for any knowledge. Some people are scornful. They are like, oh, this thing is not there, oh, this or that. So the weak link is basically us. But as a country, we have done relatively well as compared to those who do not have direction. If we continue this way, the numbers we are experiencing, they're not so large. It's just that a life is a life, but they're not that large. If we continue to observe these regulations, they seem to work and they'll preserve quite a number of us. But if we were to leave it, and then President Uhuru was to come one day on national TV and say, by virtue of being commander-in-chief, I declare Kenya COVID-free and you can walk around, then you will see deaths just next door and even in your own houses, and then they'll stop you from saying. So I think that the weak link is ourselves. We've done well.
All right, Kioko, your thoughts? The weakest link you feel, especially now that the numbers are going up, and of course scientists had told us that this is likely to happen. It is almost a normal trajectory, but could there be somewhere we're going wrong, particularly on the economy, because we still have restrictions with the curfew and certain borders still closed?
I think I wouldn't want to term it as the weakest link per se, but it's a very delicate balancing act between economic survival of the majority of us who are hustlers, who are living hand to mouth, vis-a-vis health concerns. And as an individual, you have to balance that out. Will I stay in? Will I do what needs to be done vis-a-vis work and earning a day's earning? That's a challenge that is confronting many people of us. Even policymakers are dealing with it. But by and large, we must appreciate the efforts that the government is doing, the social observation measures that are being talked about, wearing masks. All those have really placed us in better stead than had we not observed all of those things. We need to be also very, very careful about, yes, the infection rates are high. We are doing 3,000 or so right now. But we must be grateful when we look at the death number. We are doing 115 or something. We've been with this disease for about 105 diseases since the curfew started.
Right.
Average death is about 1 per day when you look at it. Now, a death is a death and it's painful, really. I do not want to appear scornful to those who've lost their bereaved, but the statistic there is quite manageable if it's one person whom we're losing because on account of COVID. Then secondly, and which is also critical, is that in so many ways, we've been able to be dealing with common cold in our own unique circumstances. This thing of ginger, water, whatever it is that we take, in our own circumstances. So yes, we have high infections, but we also have low deaths. Now, is it a crisis? Is it a pandemic? Is it all those things we must agree to listen to the scientists and to the doctors on whatever they're advising us to do. Once this thing is over, then we shall be able to do a thorough post-mortem based on facts and figures. Then we can now be able to say, I think here is where we lost it. Here, I think should have been perfected after this thing is over. As it is right now, I think we must appreciate and listen to what the doctors are saying, what Mutahi Kagwe is saying, and the CAS and the Ministry of Health officials. Let's engage positively, but also let us not forget certain mistakes that were done initially. Let us not forget certain stories that keep coming up, that certain donations have somehow disappeared. Let's not lose sight of those. Those must be documented. And once this thing is over, there shall be an accountability.
We must account for that. All right, and as we wind up, whether the Business Daily has the headline, COVID impact hurts workers' ability to send relatives cash. And of course, this is a direct effect of the fact that business is low, there is unemployment, there is people who've lost jobs. And one of the cultures that we have locally that somehow supports those who may be in rural areas is the culture of sending money to relatives. But this, of course, has gone down drastically. Maybe just your comments on that as we also reflect on the economy.
Thank you. I think yesterday I had put on my Facebook page official notice to all my relations that until December now, going forward, my donations, if any, will be for humanitarian purposes only. If your house is leaking and you think you need help, I'm out of it. If you're going to sleep hungry and I think I have something to share with you, I will share. It has gone that deep. We are, if you take, for instance, legal practice that I engage in, it is now been reduced to urgent cases only. Is something urgent? If it is not urgent, no client is coming to you, no client will pay you. It is that deep. In fact, it's gone even to, I saw some hospitals complaining that the patients have reduced. Now, unless you are very ill, these are the things you try, prayer, you try all sorts of things. So the impact, the negative impact on the economy is deep. And therefore, money that has been sent, M-Pesa and so on, has reduced completely. Businesses, take kiosks, take bars, take small businesses. They have been closed for a long time, and people also tend to avoid. Now, when I walk to a place, you want to buy oranges, but you want to buy them quickly. So if they are not talking to you nicely, very quickly you leave. And money is not there. So this
money is not available.
Yes.
All right, Kyoko, your comments on that, and I'm told it's time for us to take a break, but allow me to just pause right there and take that break. But when we come back, we're going to also be looking at matters political, particularly maybe the strategy that the Deputy President and those allied to him may have to take, given the trouble that there is in Jubilee. Today, there's a PG meeting that's going to be taking place, and those who are fired from certain committees are expected to be replaced, and there's speculation as to how that is going to go. A quick reminder of the question that we have this morning: is it too early for the ongoing political alignments? Do you think it is too early for the ongoing political alignments? We take that break right here on Morning Express at 29 minutes after 7. But do stay with us. When we come back, we delve more into matters politics.